Hello, welcome back to my channel. What I have for you today is all of the books, and there are a lot of them, that I acquired in June and July. So let's get on with this. Firstly, in July, when I went for my second COVID vaccination, I decided to pop into Waterstones, which, if you're not from the UK, is basically a big bookstore chain. They're all over the place. And the first book I picked up was Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin, which is a bind-up of the first 4 books in the Earthsea series. I have, as you can see, I am part of the way through. I have read the first 2 and I'm probably about halfway through the third one. I have friends who absolutely adore this series, and another friend who has said that Ursula Le Guin is his all-time favourite writer, so as soon as I saw this, I had to pick it up. It is as I said, it's a fantasy series about a wizard. They're quite short, quite fun, very fast-paced stories, and I am really enjoying them. So far I liked the second one more than the first one, and I haven't read enough of the third one to make a full opinion. But that is that. And while I was still in the fantasy and sci-fi section, I picked up Blood of Elves by Andrzej Sapkowski, which is the first novel in the Witcher series. I have not seen the TV series because I am probably the only person in the world who doesn't have Netflix. So I thought I would check out the books. I did realise after I bought this that there is a short story collection that comes before it, but I will get to that in a minute. Next, I have Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo-Lodge. This is a book about, lots of people were talking about this last year when all of the Black Lives Matter protests were happening in America and to a certain extent over here. But this is a book about race relations in the UK. I have the updated version that does include a chapter on Brexit, which was very interesting. I have read this one now, and it is a really interesting book, so if you are at all interested in racism and race relations, definitely pick it up. Then we have a book that just happened to catch my eye when it was on a table, and that is Medieval Bodies, Life, Death and Art in the Middle Ages by Jack Hartnell. It's no secret, I love medieval history. I just happened to see this and thought it sounded really interesting, and it is beautifully illustrated throughout. There are full colour illustrations on a number of the pages, and it just sounds like a really interesting read on life, death and art in the Middle Ages. And finally, the last book I picked up in Waterstones is the Royal Horticultural Society's Practical Cactus and Succulent book, because I have a small cactus family on the windowsill, the other side of my camera, and I would like to know more about what species I have and how best to look after them. So this book looked like a really good visual guide on what I should be doing with them. And then about a week ago I went into our local charity bookshop and picked up a few books. Firstly, the teen section was the first thing I saw when I walked through the door, so I had a quick look. I don't read a lot of YA anymore, but this one caught my eye, and that is Junk by Melvin Burgess. I saw of Herbs and Altars mention this on his channel in passing, sort of, oh, I read this when I was a teenager, I'm rereading it. It's a teenage book about heroin use, and from that I thought it sounded like it might be interesting, so it was there, it caught my eye, I thought, why not give it a go? Then I found the history section, and I picked up King John, England, Magna Carta and the Making of a Tyrant by Stephen Church. I'm sure most people will have heard of King John. He was the king in the time of Robin Hood. He's generally made, along with the Sheriff of Nottingham, he's generally made out to be a massive villain. And yes, although he was not the nicest man, he also dealt quite a bad hand by having a brother who decided to run off and join the Crusades, basically leaving him in charge when he was never meant to be king in the first place. He was the 5th son, so was never expected to take the throne, and he did, and most people would say he made a pretty bad job of it. But I'm quite interested to learn some more about him. And then I have The Time Traveller's Guide to Elizabethan England by Ian Mortimer. I have read The Time Traveller's Guide to Medieval England and thought it was really interesting. So I'm quite keen to read this one because my dragon novel that I wrote for NaNoWriMo last year was in part inspired by late Tudor England, so learning some more about that would be good. Then we made it to the fantasy and sci-fi section. So first up I have The Raven Tower by Anne Leckie. I have not read any of her books and I'm not 100% sure what this one is actually about, but I've heard such great things about her sci-fi series that when I saw her fantasy debut I had to pick it up. And it says on the back that it's Earthsea's elegance meets Sanderson's clever magic, and as you're now aware, I'm really enjoying the Earthsea series and I do love Brandon Sanderson, so I am quite keen to get to this one at some point. And then, rather excitingly, I found The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski, which is the first set of short stories in the Witcher series, so I can actually start this series now and finally know what everyone's talking about. And then I started browsing their Discworld books because although I have most of the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett, I am missing a few, and when I'm in charity shops I do tend to look out to see if they've got any of the ones I'm missing. They didn't, but what I did pick up was Nanny Ogg's Cookbook, which is full of recipes inspired by the characters on the disc. Terry Pratchett The Wit and Wisdom of Discworld, which is just full of wonderful quotations from the Discworld books. And look how pretty this book is. I had to have it. Turtle Recall by Terry Pratchett and Stephen Briggs, which is the Discworld companion so far. It goes up to Snuff. I don't know if there is another one after this because I know Snuff is not the last Discworld book, but it is one of the later ones, and it's just an A to Z of everything in the disc and then some other interesting snippets and interviews and things at the back, so I thought it was definitely worth checking out and giving it a quick read. And finally, the last book I picked up in the charity bookshop is The Streets of Ankamal, which is a map of the largest city in the Discworld. I'll just open this up quickly for you. You can't see it all, it is huge, but it is beautiful and I am very much looking forward to having a closer look at that and looking up where all the places that are important during the books occur. Finally, after going to the bookshop and coming home with 9 books, we went to the pub across the road to get some lunch, and as in a lot of pubs, they had bookshelves on the wall, and you can't look at a bookshelf and not go over and see what's on it. And I found Medieval Women by Anne Bayer. There's no dust jacket on it, it's just which is apparently village life in the Middle Ages, and I thought it sounded really interesting, so I just went up to the bar and asked the manager if I bought them a replacement book to look pretty on their shelves, if I could have this one, and he said yes. So that's another one for me to get interested in very soon. So that is all of the books that I acquired, which is all of the books I acquired in June and July. There's 15 of them in total. So I hope you found that interesting, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.